Jeff, last day before spring break, does that bring a little extra spark? Are guys thinking about their time off? How does that play out?
No, it always has more juice. They know they're about to get some time off. They're excited about getting out of here. And we got some rain and clouds today, so it was a lot easier to practice, even though it was wet. It wasn't 91 degrees like it was Tuesday.
You told us last week when we were doing our preview, I thought it was really interesting about kind of being a little bit harder on the guys this year. How has that sort of played out through 1 week of on-field practices?
Oh, it's just a mindset I talk to them about. We're going to practice more, we're going to practice longer, we're going to practice harder. And it wasn't like those guys were bad last year by any stretch of the imagination. Just when you go back and reflect on the season, there's some games, we were in them, we just didn't quite get them. And when you're the coach, it's all a reflection of you. And you got to self-reflect on what we did differently. When I look back at my notes, we were probably, shorter in some inside run than we have been. Took some reps off some kids just to, and you maybe look back and you probably should have been a little tougher. But we're also deeper, and when you're deeper, you can practice harder and practice longer because you have a better roster. So we really feel good about our depth right now.
How have they responded to that? Do they sort of embrace a little bit of a more intense approach?
Yeah, they have been. I mean, those guys have never done anything I hadn't asked them to do. They've been great.
It was really interesting when you mentioned kind of for the mat drills that you actually ranked guys. Does a system like that continue into when you get on field in just terms of who's performing at which positions and things like that?
We've always done that. We start off every team meeting with their Titan data from the practice before, so it's all very analytics driven. We always have the top 5 in each, like the skill kids, the mid skill, and the big 5, and then we have who was the top of each position, and then we have the 5 fastest guys on defense, the 5 fastest guys on offense, and then we have the slowest offensive lineman and the slowest defensive lineman of the day, which is an award they don't like to receive.
So it's more about the those effort and movement stats rather than just who's performing within the drills and stuff like that.
Well, that as well. I mean, that's reflected in the depth chart. I mean, if you're going with the 1s or the 2s or the 3s, or you're not getting to go at all.
Gotcha. We haven't talked about JT in a while. How's his sort of recovery unfolding? As I see he's out there, not really doing anything, of course, but he's out there.
I'm not the trainer, obviously. Brian and UTL system handles all that, but just his mindset and the way I see him moving around, I know he's in a way better spirit. He feels a lot better about himself. If we were to get him back, we would become just darn near lethal out there. Our receiver room's already good. If we can get John Thomas back out there, and for his sake, there's not a better human out there than him. And man, I'd love to see that. It'd be a great, great story to see him back out there.
I know it sort of projected to be another tight timetable with the surgery in November. Are you planning there's a chance he could be back early in the season, or how do you look at that long term?
I would say, there's just no way to tell. Nothing they've told me so far has been right, so I don't know why I'm going to start listening to them now. I would imagine JT's will have a lot to do with that, and just I don't know that anybody ever. That's why they always put those big windows, 4 to 6 months or 6 to 8 months. They don't know either. I mean, I love them; they're great, but there's a lot more going on there than just even doctors can predict, and even trainers can predict. And there's some people that have ACL surgeries and they're back way quicker than others. And with the trauma of his injury, I would say we're going to be very cautious, though.
How about Mekhi? What's kind of his long-term outlook?
I would say we should know something about where his recovery is by May the 1st, I would hope.
Coach, I know last week you talked about just playing downtown, no better atmosphere than playing in the Dome. You mentioned before the weather today, you had 95 or 90 degrees. How much of the recruiting pitch is it that, hey, every Saturday or when we're playing at home, it's nice and 72 degrees, don't have to worry about the weather?
Yeah, it's huge. We use that definitely. It's one of our lines. We talk to and the mothers are the ones that listen to it the most. Quarterbacks, receivers, punters, kickers, and for sure mothers. They like, and not just the rain, that heat you mentioned. They like knowing their makeup's going to stay nice and their hair's going to stay nice. And that's a recruiting pitch we do to every aunt, grandmother, and mother that walks through my office.
I think we're talking to Rocco Griffin today. He went through the senior day process last year, which was interesting. Was there ever any question about whether he'd be back for this year?
We just tell them if there's any close thought, you might as well go ahead just to make sure. We can always do it twice. And luckily, he wanted to come back, and he's awesome. He's a great young man. He's a really good back as well, and he's just a super dude, man. He's easy to coach. Got a smile on his face every day. Obviously, he's bilingual, which is fascinating how well he speaks Spanish, and he's a good boy.
Cyrus Simon, I think, is the other one who's going to roll through here with us today. Sort of how do you look back on his season last year?
You know, he's a kid that I keep thinking is fixed to come on and have a really big year. He had a good year again. He's very steady. He's a really good kid. But I'm hoping he, makes a few more plays. I mean, he's been steady and he's been good. But I'm ready to see him, flash a little bit more. And I think that's coming just because of the work Cyrus has put in. He's a really good football player out of Atascocita. He's played quite a bit for us, and we're excited to see him take that next step.
I remember he was a little bit banged up during fall camp, and there were games he missed here and there. Was injury a factor in that at all, do you think, for him?
He had some nagging stuff, throughout the year, but he's been out there every day so far.
How close was he to being a single-digit guy last year? I know leadership.
He's been close for 2 years in a row. So we got a few guys that have been close, and I'm excited to see where they end up this August.
This could be the last go-round for him in that sense.
I think this is it.
Yeah.
I think this is his last one.
So do you see him kind of, pushing for that? Is he making a case for himself this spring to be that
Oh
guy?
yeah, he always has. He's been in that. We've been pretty good, and I don't cut him any slack when it comes to that. If they don't make it, they don't make it. It is what it is.
Coach, I might be wrong in this, but I guess this is maybe the last round of extra COVID years or something like that. I know you mentioned depth is really good right now. Kind of looking ahead, I know that's really far down the road, but what does that do for kind of in the future? Kind of adjusting for depth when those guys who have that extra year kind of phase on out.
Yeah, I just with the new world, I don't know that anything's ever the same anymore with the transfer portal. And there's 85. You got 85 scholarships. So there's a lot of schools that are using their NIL money just to pay kids for their scholarship too. So they're getting 100 and 115 kids. So their depth must be really good. But we're not to that point yet. It's just it is what it is, and we have certain numbers for each position, and we have certain numbers we would like to. Freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. So we've kind of anticipated some of that, but we are taking a hit with some older kids that have been here for a while. But that should, if you're doing it correctly, every year should be around 17 to 22 kids. Now with the transfer portal the way it is, that number might escalate sometimes because some kids might chase greener pastures, or they might just want to go somewhere they can play because they can't play here. So that could fluctuate. Thank y'all.